In astronomy, we hear a lot about faraway stars and galaxies, but for this talk, we're going to stay closer to home. Let's go to the moon. You know, during this session, the moon is overhead out there above the clouds, and it's the very same moon that Adam and Eve looked at, and also Galileo and Isaac Newton in years gone by. The moon is our nearest neighbor in space. It's about 250,000 miles away. Now, we're not into light years, but just light seconds of distance. Now, our moon is about 4 times smaller than the Earth. And I thought since we're in a stadium, a good comparison would be a baseball compared with a basketball. Imagine a trip to the moon. The gravity there is about 1/6 of what we're used to on the Earth. In fact, the moon would provide a guaranteed diet program. If you weigh 150 pounds on the Earth, on the moon, it would be down to 25 pounds. Of course, the moon has no water, no air, no clouds, no wind, really no weather at all. It might be a good place to visit, but it's a place of extremes. You know, during the space age that we're in, they're finding lots of new things, new discoveries. Perhaps you've heard of new planets that are being found. Not around our sun, but objects that are circling other stars. They found about 150 new planets. They haven't named them, but they're out there. Apparently, the Creator has spread a lot of these objects through space. And we're also finding new moons. Even just the planet Saturn is up to 42 moons. I got to wondering about what we're finding in space and what these other areas might be like. And as they're being studied, we are learning some of their properties. And I came up with kind of an illustration of what some of these new planets and moons look like. They're nasty places. Most of them have temperatures of 1,000 degrees, or else they're very cold. They have poisonous gases. They have crushing air pressures. It's interesting what we find in space. In fact, I think one of the real conclusions that we're learning from this space age is that the Earth is special. And maybe I could just say it this way. There's no place quite like home. And that's one of the grand conclusions that we're learning as time goes by. Now, back to the moon. There is something very special about this satellite that circles the Earth. I believe that the moon provides one of our strongest evidences for creation. And this includes the moon's origin and its age and also the design of the moon. And I would like to explore these with you for a while. So we begin with a question of where the moon came from. How did it get in the sky? And in this scientific age, various ideas have been presented. In fact, many careers and billions of dollars, your tax dollars, have been spent trying to solve the problem of how the moon got to be circling the Earth. Over the decades, various natural origin theories have been proposed, and I'd like to survey them with you for a few moments. Now, stay with me. This is not a bowling pin. This is not a chicken drumstick. This is serious business. This is one of these lunar origin theories. In fact, this was the dominant theory back in the 1960s. This particular idea goes back to one of the sons of Charles Darwin. It was astronomer George Darwin who suggested that long ago the moon broke away from a rapidly spinning Earth. George Darwin also thought that the Pacific Ocean basin was the scar that was left behind when the moon separated from the Earth. As I look at this picture, it reminds me of riding a bicycle on a rainy day and the mud comes off the back wheel. It's sort of what this theory describes. In fact, in this view, the moon is the child of the Earth. Let's call it the daughter theory. There are some problems with this natural origin theory, as you might expect. For this to happen, the Earth would have to spin about 10 times faster than it does today. And this large amount of turning motion or angular momentum is just simply not available in the Earth-Moon system. Again, the Earth would have to turn in about 2 hours' time If it did that, then we would be in danger of sailing off ourselves, but it does not happen, of course. There's another problem. A moon moving out from the Earth, as this picture shows, would have to pass through what is called the Rauch or breakup limit. Now, this is a boundary around the Earth that extends out about 10,000 miles from the Earth's surface. And any large object like the moon moving through this part of the Earth, it would be torn apart by the Earth's gravity. In fact, if the moon moved within the Rauch limit, it would be broken up into a ring of material. As a comparison, the rings of Saturn lie within that planet's breakup limit. And so this is another problem which kind of shoots down the idea of the fission theory. And there's one additional serious problem with lunar fission. This goes back to 1969, when moon rocks were returned to the Earth during the Apollo project. As we have studied these moon rocks, we've come to realize that their composition is distinct from Earth rocks. For example, moon rocks are lacking in iron atoms, and the moon has no water whatsoever. And if the moon had broken off from the Earth, it would have picked up some of this moisture. The moon rocks simply do not look like they came from the Earth, as the fission theory suggests. Next, after the fission theory, in the 1970s came the capture theory, and this dominated the astronomy world. In this idea, a wandering moon long ago approached the Earth, and it was captured by our gravity and has been circling the Earth ever since. Let's call this theory, since it's kind of a marriage, the spouse theory. Now, as I think about this, it's not really a valid origin theory, because it doesn't really tell where the moon comes from. It just sort of sneaks in from the bottom of the picture and comes in our direction. But we'll let that pass for now. There are other problems. There is no clear mechanism of how the moon could be captured, how it could slow down and be carefully inserted into orbit on a single pass. In fact, as we do computer analysis of this, it's more likely that the moon would pick up speed and, like crack the whip, it would get out of here in a hurry. It would gain speed. And there are other problems with capture. If it somehow was possible, it would likely lead to a moon orbit that was greatly elongated, like many comet orbits. It would be non-circular. But when we consider the moon, its orbit is very symmetric. It only deviates 5% from a perfect circle. The next idea is nebular. The nebular origin attempt, or also called the condensation theory. This one suggests that the Earth forms side by side with the moon from collapsing gas clouds. In fact, since they form together, let's call it the sister theory. The major problem this time is that initial gas clouds must somehow be compressed so that they shrink rather than expand. When you have a gas cloud in space, there are always competing forces. Gravity would like to shrink the cloud down, but gas forces cause the cloud to stretch out and disband and expand. An initial gas cloud must somehow be compressed to a critical size so that gravity takes over and makes it stable. Now, we have such things. The sun is gaseous, and so are the outer larger planets. They're small enough that gravity takes over and they're stable. However, almost all of the large nebula that we see in space, they're expanding, they're stretching out, they're dissipating. In fact, with the nebula theory, we should not have any Earth or moon. Those gases should have been just strung out every which way. And even if this nebular theory was somehow possible from the moon, if the gas could be compressed, the question is, well then why didn't the Earth and moon gas come together? Why didn't we end up with one large object instead of what we have, a moon circling the Earth? There are just no satisfying answers to these natural origin theories. Let me bring this to the present day. Because since nothing else works, astronomers are now proposing catastrophes. And so this is the current view that's in all the astronomy books and on the internet. The suggestion is that 4.5 billion years ago, a large Mars-sized object struck the Earth. They call this the collision or the giant impact theory. Now, we've already considered the daughter theory and the spouse and the sister theory. I don't know what to call this one. I'll let you make up your own word. But it sounds like there's some violence involved with this one. In fact, artists like to draw pictures of this. And they're kind of interesting, the kind of thing they come up with where this collision is occurring. Not reality here, but artwork. The suggested collision partially melted both objects, the Earth and the projectile. It threw massive amounts of debris high into Earth orbit. The Earth gradually recovered and got its round shape back, and the space fragments coalesced into the orbiting moon. These days, what they're doing are computer simulations to try to get this thing to reproduce, in an artificial sense on computer. And they're very complex, and they come up with pictures like this. This would be the idea right after the collision has occurred. I've looked at these computer models. Some of them come up with no moon, and some of them come up with multiple moons. I was thinking it's kind of getting late in the evening, and these computer models can get kind of complicated, so I found a simpler one. If you want to get what we're getting at here, some object hits the Earth and somehow is supposed to make the moon. The problems go on with the collision theory. Where did this large object come from that struck the Earth? The probability of a direct hit like that goes to near zero. Now, I know they make movies in Hollywood about objects hitting the Earth like that Deep Impact film, but it only happens in films, not in reality. And again, how did the moon assume a near circular orbit with some kind of a collision that's been proposed?